Alright, so now that we have some HTML and CSS code under our belt, it's really time to experiment with it and just try things out. So I'm going to show you some ways you can do that. One is to go back to Mozilla and try out some of their tools. I've provided Stuck in the 90s here, which provides a really great example of some of the stuff I had to deal with when I was creating websites. Now, I don't think I ever created anything this tacky, but it does show you how you were limited by tables and various things that were in place before CSS came on the scene. And so if you go over here, it gives you lots of instructions about how to experiment with this code. And if you go to projects and then Thimble projects, you'll find all sorts of other things you can experiment with doing HTML and CSS, and I see that they even provide difficulty levels. So if you wanted to start with a beginner and see what they have, I think they're just really fun projects to experiment with. Also, somebody was asking, do I need to type out this code when I'm programming a website? And no, you do not. That's why I provided the CSS cheat sheet and the CSS references, so you can go and grab code and just copy and paste it into your site. But I wanted to give you a warning about doing that. Thimble is pretty forgiving. No matter where you copy something from, it will strip out any extraneous formatting, but some tools are not. So for instance, if you were using a word processor like Microsoft Word to copy and paste from, then you might actually get some of the Word formatting, which of course Word does formatting under the covers to provide all the different kinds of fonts and sizes and things like that. So what I do is I just use on a PC I use text edit, and on a Mac I would use text edit. On a PC I would use Notepad and just make sure they're an ASCII version. And here's what I actually did when I was learning how to do that two-column thing on the example I gave earlier. I actually had to go find code, and so I just copied and pasted this into Notepad, and then from Notepad into the Mozilla Thimble that we had used, this one here. And then I just updated it from there. So there's the two-column layout, and you can see I had made changes and changed the names and stuff to what I wanted to use. So that is perfectly a valid thing to do. The other thing I want to talk about is next week we're actually going to start using a tool called Weebly. It's a template editor, which means that it provides all sorts of pre-canned templates that you can use to create your website. And so we'll be getting a little more away from coding and more into designing a website. So what's the content going to be? How's it going to be laid out? How do you want it to look? And then we might still do some tweaking of our HTML and CSS. But by and large, the websites we're going to create are going to have more to do with you providing content and then using the template editor to get that going. So I wanted to give you some tools where you can create some test content. So you're going to definitely want to have a title and some images. If you're doing, again, things with Thimble, you have to have images that are hosted on a server somewhere because you need that HTTP URL reference to get the image to show up like we have here. So you can use pixel art, and it's just a fun little tool to create pixel drawings. And if you click this up arrow, it will actually upload it to a gallery, and then you can go and use the URL for that. Now, when we are moving on to Weebly, it actually lets you upload your own images, so you won't have to find existing images. So I've given you a couple of, actually several options for creating your own images. Sumo Paint is an online tool. Paint.net is a PC-based tool, and actually this is my favorite. And when I moved to Mac, I really started missing it. But I've been using Seashore as a substitute. Doesn't have quite as much functionality. And then there's always GIMP, which is really a high-functioning image editor or creator, and it's open source, so it works on almost all platforms. Also, you can search for images on other sites that you could use on your website. Now remember, we want to use images that are stock photos that are free or that have the right Creative Commons that allow us to use it. And so these are some sites that do that. This site called Creative Commons, you put in your search query here, and then you actually have to click on where it is you want to go look. So if I wanted to do a Google image search, but I wanted to find butterflies that I could modify or adapt or use for commercial use, I'd click that, and then these have been tagged as images I can use. And the other thing I want to remind you of is when we're on Google and we want to get an image, it's not good enough to click it from here. We need to go view that original image. And then you can either take the URL or copy the image to save image as on your desktop. So that's how you can get one way to get images. Then CompFight, actually one of my Teen Tech girls just showed me this, and this gets images from Flickr that have been appropriately tagged. So there's some really good images there. And then Stock Exchange has been around for a while, and it's an image place I'd like to use. You do have to get a login to get the images, but it's free stock photos, and they have some really good items. In fact, that's where the background from the Teen Tech Girls website came from. So get some images that you can play around with, create some text, some content, paragraphs, bullet list, maybe some links. And then again, you can experiment with this content on Thimble with a blank sheet just to see how that goes for you. And we'll be using that content later next week for Weebly. And I've given you a couple more tutorials that you could try out if you wanted to get deeper into CSS. And I'm loving seeing the comments on the Google Plus site, and I hope they keep coming. And we'll catch up with you later. Thanks.